And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live stream. I'm Julia Poger. I'm a business and conference and diplomatic interpreter, and I work from Russian and French into English, and from English into Russian. And as you probably also know, I run a business called Know Your Worth, where I help interpreters and really any service professional to understand how to get your name out and sell your services so that you can market your fees and your conditions. Please write in the comments where you're listening in from today. And before we move into our topic today, I'd like to ask you to stick around until the end of the show to find out what we'll be talking about in July. So let's move on to our show. Content creation for linguists, especially for those of us in the interpreting and translating profession, can be a real headache. Do you write for yourself and then you wonder why nobody's really replying? Or do you write for your colleagues because, hey, that's easy and they engage? But then how much work do you get from your colleagues? I mean, you might get a lot, but really, do you? And do you write for your clients who are not interpreters or translators? But what can you say that would attract them and get them to turn to you because they trust you? And what would interest them? So my special guest today is Sylwia Biczyk. Sylwia is an English to Polish translator. She specializes in business and corporate communication. When she went to college in the US, she realized that people were intrigued by foreign languages. She had a better experience maybe than I did. And they certainly needed native help to help build relationships across borders. So Sylwia honed her English, her business, and her communication skills. And today she builds those bridges that she discovered while she was in college. I met Sylwia actually during COVID, surprisingly enough, because she's all the way off in Warsaw and I'm all the way off in Brussels. We were on a LinkedIn masterclass and we were the two people working with languages. And I've been following her ever since and watched her content get better and better, which is why I invited her to come and speak here today. So, hi, Sylwia. After that long introduction, hi, Sylwia.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here.
I'm really glad that you could make it. And you can see we've got people coming in from Argentina and China.
Wonderful.
I don't know if there's a problem with the connection, Dominica. We're doing fine, but I'm not sure. You can try watching this on YouTube if you would rather, or on Twitter as well. Hi, Montse from Barcelona. So we've got somebody from Europe as well. And hello from the south of France. Hi, Patricia. Good to see everybody here today. So let's move on to the questions, or else we'll be saying hello to everybody for the rest of the day. So Sylwia, before we get started on what you do, how would you define content creation specifically?
Mm-hmm. So for me, it's all about building relationships. It's also about sharing insights about my profession and showing myself as a normal human person that happens to be a translator. We often think that content creation is just the posts or materials that we put in social media, but I think that it's also comments and our engagement and our involvement with other people on social media. So we build our presence with all kinds of content, and if you are scared to publish, then it's a good idea to start with little steps like commenting or engaging with others on LinkedIn, for example.
Mm-hmm. And content, I mean, for me, I always thought that content was also something with a specific goal as well. As you said, your goal is to build relationships, and that's probably why your content is so engaging and so interesting to read. I mean, I have to admit, whenever I go onto LinkedIn, because we have a close tie in the algorithm, your posts come up almost first, and for me at all times. And I'm always really interested to see what new topic you'll come up with. So,
thank you so much.
So while people say, "Oh, hey, it's deserved," but while people say that the content, that it's storytelling and all of this and so on, you do use stories, but I'm seeing that you're using them with a goal. And I think that that's really what content is all about. It's not just talking about, oh, hey, my last appointment at the dentist, for example, to refer back to one of your recent posts. But it's much more about, well, this was my last time at the dentist, and this is what I learned from it, and this is what I can tell you about my profession. So I saw
Yes,
that there was a
that's
real
true.
goal.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Well,
I enjoyed it very much.
thank you. I think that you can really decide for yourself what your goal is. So some people might be focused strictly on looking for clients. Others might want to build a more social network. And I think that there is no right or wrong answer. It really depends on your personal goals, your career goals, and why you want to spend time on social media. Uh, Personally, I think that it's good to have a mix to look for clients, but also build your presence among your colleagues, because you never know. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
if sometimes you might get recommended for a job just because you interacted with your colleagues and you supported them on you're engaged with their posts. So the goal
Mm-hmm.
is really
Mm-hmm.
depends on what you want to gain from being on LinkedIn or in social media.
Mm-hmm. Which actually brings me to the next question, which is, which platforms do you use and why?
So I'm mainly on LinkedIn now because I believe this is where my clients are. And I also came to appreciate the community of fellow business people and fellow linguists who are there. I also used to have a YouTube channel, but it turned out to be a little too much for me, and I had to take a step back. So now I have built my routine on LinkedIn. I publish twice a week, one post in Polish and one in English. And well, I had to figure out a schedule that was good for me, that I felt comfortable with, but also one that worked for me career-wise. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to get discouraged if you put too much pressure on yourself. Like you see that other people publish every day, and you think, "Oh gosh, I have to do it too." But the reality is that you have to be comfortable, because if you put too much pressure on yourself and you are not really ready, time-wise or energy-wise, to follow that plan, then you get burned out, and you get discouraged, and you quit. And that's in fact what happened to me in the past. So I think that the most important thing is to find your balance, and it's something that you're comfortable with. And also, if I could give a piece of advice, is to start with one platform and engage there as much as you can. And if you can start by writing one or two posts per week, and you are consistent, then that's okay. This is what's working for you. And to find a balance, be consistent under as little pressure as possible. I think that's the key.
Mm-hmm. And when you say engage, like your first steps is choose one platform and engage as much as possible. What do you mean exactly by engage? Just liking people's things or writing something? What do you mean exactly?
Uh, Well, again, I think there might be two types of engagement that we can talk about. So one is when people engage under your post, and you comment back, and you build relationship, and you answer and get into the discussion. And also another type of engagement is under posts of other people. So you look for that connection, and there are people that might not respond to you, but will read your comment and will build the awareness about you as a professional based on the comments that you provide. So I would suggest not to write, oh, great post, wonderful, but write something more meaningful, and sometimes a piece of advice, or answer to a question. Let's not be afraid to put our professional side in the comments as well, because they speak volumes on our
Mm-hmm.
behalf.
Very well said. Very well said. So I do have to say one thing about the professional side, and I've seen this happen throughout. I mean, not just for interpreters and translators and so on, but throughout everybody that I've seen. When you get somebody very popular writing a post, very often you'll get somebody underneath that post who says, "Hi, I'm available on these dates and I do this thing and you should come and look at my class instead of looking at this other." So that kind of thing is really frowned upon
Yes,
because
yes, and
you're basically trying to steal the audience
mhm,
of the
yes,
person whose post you're writing under.
yes, yes, and I think it will backfire
So,
in the long term. So let's keep
mhm.
professional. LinkedIn is, after all, a platform for professionals, and I think that we should behave accordingly.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And to go back to what you were saying before, is we do have to find our own pace and what works for us.
Mhm,
Well said. And Patricia was just saying, I agree about the pressure. Sometimes just opening LinkedIn stresses me because I feel I need to post, and I'm not sure what to
yes.
post about. We may have a
Mhm.
tip for you later, Patricia. We'll see how that goes.
Yes, hopefully.
And somebody else has agreed with Patricia, of course. So okay. So the platforms, I found that you're very right that you start with one and you get comfortable there
Mhm,
before you
mhm,
start working on another one. I started on Twitter, and I started with an anonymous account so that nobody
mhm,
would know it was me. And I retweeted a few things, and I live tweeted a few things, and so on. And I got more comfortable. So then I decided I would build my own brand. And then
mhm,
I moved to my own account. I kind of did the same thing in LinkedIn by, okay, I wasn't anonymous because you can't be, but I didn't have a photograph and I didn't have a lot of explanation and stuff. And then as I got more comfortable, I then started to put, bolder calls to action and
mhm.
better about sections and a better headline. And I put my photograph on once I got a good one. You've got a good photographer, Sylwia. Please
Thank
pass
you.
on my compliment. So I moved
Thank
on
you.
as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So
and let's
how do
remember
you,
it's a journey. It's a
yeah, it is
journey,
a
so
journey
we
and
we
we're
move
still on it.
forward, but sometimes we take two steps back, or we have to stop, or we have a difficult moment, and it's all okay. Sometimes we put great expectations and big pressure on our shoulders, to be there because others are, and we forget what's good for us, that sometimes we have to take a break, and it's just part of the journey because we return all the stronger. So let's stay positive, that all experiences
I have,
are needed and good for us.
yes, and can be turned into posts. I'm just
That's
joking
true.
there, but it's true. So how do you decide on a target audience and
Mhm.
how do you target them in your posts?
Okay, so I must say that I specialize in business and corporate tax, and this is, of course, the type of clients that I look for. Not specifically Polish clients, but those that might need a translator or have already worked with a translator. And when start writing a post, I usually start with a question or some problem that my clients might face. And also, I think it's worth highlighting that we have multiple target groups. So we have direct clients, business clients, or we might have direct legal clients or agency clients or even colleagues. So I write my post specifically with that target group in mind. So this is because they can better relate to that post. It resonates with them better, and it's more likely that they will engage with this type of post. So I can write to my direct clients on Mondays, and let's say on Tuesday my agency clients, and so on. But uh, always writing with that group in mind. And
Hmm.
I think it's also worth mentioning that writing to our colleagues about translation related issues it's also a good idea because we build our presence among fellow linguists. And as I mentioned before, they will remember us, and they are more likely to recommend us for a job. And it's really a great feeling when they recommend us because they know each other. We know each other from LinkedIn. And one last type of post that I would say is good to write, although I don't do it yet. It's to write about yourself, your hobbies, or your some insights or some situations that you came across, to show that you are, normal human being, that you might have similar interests with your clients, so they see you as a more relatable person, as a more holistic person, not just professional, but just nice person that they can relate to.
But actually, I think you do that already, and I think you do it really well because, for example, the 3 posts that I'm giving the links to the 3 posts I'm giving as an example at the bottom in the comments after this is all over, one of them talks about frozen pizza, one of them talks about going to the dentist, and one of them talks about a plumbing issue, at your house and so on. So, these are all natural, normal things that, God forbid, plumbing issues happen very rarely to everybody, knock on wood, but they are things that happen. And what you do is you take them and you move them into a professional way. You take this normal thing of being late at the dentist or the dentist being late for you,
Yes.
and then you turn it into a post about what happens with you when a client comes in at the last minute and has something that they really need to work on. So you're doing kind of both. And in fact, as one of the people here has just said, being an inspired and talented storyteller plays a main role in creating content, I think, and just correcting the role there. Thank you, Nilufar. But being that talented storyteller that you are, you're able to not just tell the story, but make it important for the reason why you're putting it up there. You're bringing it back to your business. You are talking about your own life, but then you're moving it in, which I think is really interesting and really successful, quite frankly, because you're one of the few people from our class that has maintained contacts with people, and that has a wider engagement than simply translators, which I think is fantastic. Most of us, if you look at the people who are replying to my posts, 98% of them are interpreters. Now, granted, my target audience for Know Your Worth, is interpreters. So I think I'm doing pretty well here. Woohoo, woohoo. But if I were simply an interpreter and not trying to do Know Your Worth as well, that wouldn't necessarily be the best profile. I should have a few clients who are commenting and engaging as well. So it's a little bit of and in fact, Patricia's always saying she always doubts about where to draw the line between personal and professional.
Yes.
And when it becomes too personal.
Yes, I
How do you
understand
draw that line, Patricia?
Yeah. Well, we draw the line, so we have to decide what we are comfortable with, and nobody will force us to talk about our, like deeply personal life. It's me who decides. Like with my pizza post, I used my husband, so to speak, as the protagonist of that post, because I meant it's a play of words a little bit, and you have to read it for yourself. But anyway, it was just a normal family situation, and I turned it around to show some issues about machine translation. It's really you decide, and you have to feel comfortable how you present with the topic and how you present it. So I think that we can give just a glimpse of who we are without being too personal in our posts.
Yeah, it's true. I always think that if you would talk to not your best friend. If you would talk to a friend, but not your best friend, okay? Not somebody that you're going to say, oh my God, you won't believe what happened last night, not that person, but somebody that you know, but not really well. If you would talk to them about it at a coffee shop, then I would put it in a post. But if it's something you would only tell your best friend in a coffee, I would never put it in a post. People might want to know that you love to travel, and so you travel around the world as much as you possibly can. I know one guy who is an interpreter only to fund his snowboarding habit. So he would interpret all summer, build up the money, and then all winter long he'd just take off and go from resort to resort to resort snowboarding. And that was his thing, and he could have talked about that, right? But if he started talking about snowboarding or going on the beach in a mankini or something, I would kind of draw the line at that. Mankinis are off the table entirely. Valentina says, I believe that an essential aspect is to be authentic in our posts, or to post what we believe in as human beings. What do you think, Sylwia?
Oh, it's spot on. Yes, I think we have to be, we don't have to, it's our choice, really. But I think it's being authentic and just as we are, it's really rewarding, and I think it's honest also to ourselves and to our clients, because later on, if there are any interactions and they realize that you're a different person in social media and different person in real life, then they will feel somehow let down, and it's part of building our image. Yeah.
It's true. And also, if you say, for example, like in my case, oh my God, I'm such a fan of Game of Thrones, and then somebody mentions something and I don't react to it, I can't react to it. It's being inauthentic. I can react to a few things. I've mentioned, the Red Room of Pain, or whatever. No, that actually was 50 Shades rather than the Red Wedding. There we go. The Red Wedding. Oops. Now we know what I'm actually a fan of, but we're not going to go there. Okay, so to move back to a question that Ilham had, should you like, share, or comment on content on LinkedIn before moving to post?
It's hard to say. So, do you mean that you have to react to the post and then write a comment? Like, what's the sequence? Is that?
Well, it's more like what we were saying earlier. Get onto a platform and engage before you post.
Oh,
so
okay.
like people's posts.
I understand now. Okay, thanks. I think it's a good first step. If you are totally new to LinkedIn and it's a little bit overwhelming, then start by reacting to posts, and later on you can move on to commenting. That's perfectly fine. It's not necessary. You can start commenting right away if something resonates with you and you want to add to the discussion, or just get yourself known that you are there and you are reading the post. That's certainly very valuable. I know that there are many people, so-called lurkers, that just read and never react or never comment. They just read the content. But I think if you are on LinkedIn, and we are spending our time on the platform, then why not to use it to our advantage? So show that you are there, and I think that commenting is a good start. Like giving reaction is okay, certainly, but I think it's better if you want to mark your presence to start with commenting and engaging.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And yes, there are millions of people on LinkedIn and not millions of people who are commenting or writing on LinkedIn. And there are different LinkedIns, really, because when I focus on the interpreting side, and I talk to interpreters and other linguists like Sylwia, the algorithm sends me more and more interpreters and other linguists. When I start following a new kind of person, like I started following somebody talking about the algorithm and talking about content creation, then LinkedIn starts sending me messages and saying, oh, well, if you're following this person, maybe you want to follow these other 6 people.
Mhm.
And then I follow 1 or 2 of them, and suddenly my feed is all carousels from people telling me what the best template is for content creation and stuff. So, if I wanted to get into international gardening, I don't know, I'm making it up here, all I would have to do is see what about following somebody who's in gardening, and then the algorithm will start sending me more gardening people. So LinkedIn is really what you make of it as well.
Mhm.
To go back to the authentic question, as Touche says, lies have short legs, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then everything done in the dark always comes to light, of course, including lurkers. Woohoo! So, and that part about drawing the line is so true. Oversharing is just not for LinkedIn. I would say oversharing is not for anywhere, not even for Facebook. But I do think that some people will share things that are even more personal than others will. I know that during Mental Health Month, some people were talking about some mental health issues that they had because they put too much pressure on themselves from having to post or because of their business. I watched one guy have several posts about how his business was failing, not because he had a bad product or service, but because it was really difficult to get certain things out there to the right people at the right time. And so he had a bottleneck somewhere, and he was very much opening himself up to everybody, talking about his business problems. And in fact, 1 or 2 clients supported him very much and said, well, we really don't want to do without your service, so what can we do to help, and so on. So things, some things are oversharing, and some things are not oversharing, depending on what kind of a community you have. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And this one will be interesting because of the pizza and the dentist and so on that we've already mentioned. So how do you get ideas for your posts?
Okay, so I must say that definite change came at the beginning of the year. When I set my mind on getting more clients from LinkedIn, and I had a serious talk with myself, and I asked myself, how do you want to feel when you get those clients? And I imagined that I want to feel happy, satisfied, proud of myself. So my next question to myself was, what can you do to feel like that, let's say in 6 months? And the answer was obvious, grow your presence on LinkedIn. So I decided that I have to work a little bit on my writing skills because I always somehow doubted myself, and I compared myself to others, and I thought, everything has been said and done, and other creators are so much better. So what can I do? I tried to work on my writing skills, and I came up with a new strategy. I found a course on creative writing on Domestika, and just started writing the exercises that they suggested. So, for example, it was describing a picture, or writing to a piece of music, or writing to a friend. And I thought it was fun. It was something I enjoyed. And I set the time limit to be just 10 minutes every day, because I thought, well, 10 minutes is such a short time. It doesn't take me away from my work. And I can, practice my writing skills at the same time. So as I was working on my creative muscle, it really got better and better. It was very surprising that I started to see ideas to write about everywhere. For example, one day I wrote, what would I do if I were a queen for a day? Or another day I wrote, what my cats might think of me, etc. And it was really just fun. And then, surprisingly, I also started to get some translation-related ideas based on my everyday interactions with my clients. So I just started to write about that during that everyday writing moment, and it was very important for me to have intuitive writing, which means that I don't criticize myself for what I wrote. I don't stop and correct it. I just go with the flow, and whatever comes to my mind, I just put it down and try to enjoy myself. So I have separate notebooks for my Polish and English writings, because I write in both languages. And when I had a translation related topic, I just marked it in green like that. And then when the time came that I had to prepare my LinkedIn post, I pull out those green marked pieces, I elaborate on them, and I make them LinkedIn fit. And this is how it got so much easier for me to write, and I don't have to spend hours just thinking in front of the blank page. What should I write about today or tomorrow? I just have it already, and it's prepared with ease and with joy, and it really makes a difference. And I have to say that since the beginning of the year, I really started to enjoy writing more. I criticize myself less, and I see daily situations as a possible inspiration and talk about translations. So that's my secret for now. But of course, it's a journey. It's not that for the past 5 months, it's been all easy for me. I had some dry spells. There were moments when I thought, nothing creative comes to me. I have too much work. It's never easy. We are never done with our work of development, with our journey. As I said before, you make 3 steps forward and sometimes 2 steps back, and it's okay. We just have to accept it, and we can talk to our friends, for example. We can go back to the beginning, just as you suggested to me, Julia, which I'm very thankful for, because sometimes these are little things that keep us going and lifts our spirit to keep going and don't give up. So that's it. That's the story.
So I've got 2 comments. I've got 2 comments, or a comment and a question for you, but actually maybe 2 questions. The first one is from Nilufar: posting based on emotions such as sympathy with some events is authentic for an official account? I have an answer for that, but I'm going to wait and see what Sylwia has to say first.
Yeah. Okay. I think I think that we have to keep balance. That showing our human emotions and our deeper thoughts and insights, it's okay. It shows that we are not, robotic professionals. That we are human, and it's important for us to express those feelings, and for others to know about them. And sometimes they might be very helpful for others to find that somebody else is writing openly about difficult things. But of course, we have to keep balance. Our readers are not our family. They are not close friends. They are, like people that we don't know really. So we have to keep some level of professionalism, I think, and not overdo it. But certainly not be afraid to show human emotions.
Exactly. See, I didn't even have to answer because you did. But if you notice also, I mean, after the floods in Italy that just happened, and I know several people who have been affected, and one person who's doing quite a huge amount of organizing and cleaning and getting a swap thing together where people are sending, clothing or appliances that they don't need anymore for people who have lost them and so on. She's organizing all of this. She has posted about this online on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. I'm sure I wouldn't know because I'm not on Facebook, but I'm assuming so. And she's posted about that, and I think it's a brilliant thing, because it means that, first of all, her clients know that she's a person with a soul, and second of all, she might get the word out in her in her networks. Part of that is I've set up a Fund Me account to help fund people buying a new washing machine or buying, something that they need after their house has been destroyed by the mud and the floods. I think it's a brilliant idea, actually, because it does show that. Do remember that your official account is you and your business account, but it's you. It's you. It's not just, like the Know Your Worth account on LinkedIn, which is just this. It doesn't have my face at all. It's just this. I don't put these live streams out on the Know Your Worth LinkedIn account. I put it out on my personal account because there's much more engagement that way and people can see what I'm involved in. I can always, repost it on the Know Your Worth account. I do put this out on the Know Your Worth YouTube because it does have to do with Know Your Worth. But, if we were to talk about the Italian floods, for example, if I could find some reason to talk about that other than here at this moment, then maybe I'd have a show on that as well. Okay, so another question that we have, and this is especially good for you, I think. Eugenia wants to know, how do you decide the language of your posts? When you think about posting an article, what do you think about posting it in 2 different languages, for instance, in Polish, and then translating it yourself into English? And I was going to ask you as well, if you were posting your, that wonderful dentist post that you posted in Polish, would you think about posting it in English as well? Or are your posts completely different and so on? So anything you have to say about that?
Sure. Well, I try my posts to complement each other, also because I know that there is translate that post function under our post. So even if it's written in English, I know that my Polish friends and clients can read it and can respond to it in their own language of choice. I think the most important thing is to decide where your clients are and what language do they speak. If I want to target English-speaking clients, then I will write more posts in English, and I will make sure also that I build my network of English-speaking people. Or you can balance that. I do write in Polish and in English, but actually I've started to think whether not to increase my English posts to 2 per week with 1 Polish post per week, just because I think that for me personally, English-speaking clients are better paying clients. So I want more of those. And that's why I think that it's worth targeting them more. But this thought still has to grow in me. I have to mentally get ready, to write more often. So it's a matter for future, I think. At this point, I write 1 post in English and 1 in Polish. And as far as articles are concerned, it's the same story. It depends what your clients need, because you will talk differently to Polish-speaking clients. For them, for example, the issues concerning price might be more important. And for my English-speaking clients, issues of quality, for example. That's just an example. But I definitely can't make and translate literally my posts from Polish to English and vice versa, because the mentality and the needs and the problems of those people speaking in different languages, coming from different cultures, are just different. So I have to adjust to my specific target group. Always have them in mind and write for them.
Which is fantastic, because that's what you were also saying about targeting your ideal clients.
Yes.
Part of that is through the language that you use. Of course, if you do 2 in English and 1 in Polish, it means you're going to be increasing your output per week. So you might want to think about just doing 2 in English and 1 in Polish, but still maintaining 2 a week. So you may want to think about rotating like that as well. One person here, let me just bring that up, says, Ahlem says, I post in English because it gives more exposure on the market I want to develop.
Exactly.
Exactly. And this is something everybody needs to keep in mind, is that you're not posting for what you have now, you're posting to have, for what you want in the future. So let's pretend I wanted to stop being an interpreter and start being, I don't know, a gardener, I don't know, a gardening journalist. I would stop posting about interpreting things and I would start posting about gardening things and journalism things, hoping that at some point in the future I can move into that area, but building an experience so that people see that I know what I'm talking about before they hire me. So back to the language issue. Somebody says, I sometimes post multilingual for some important topic related to my profession. It's true. I have seen posts that come out English and then another language, French or Polish or whatever, or Polish and then English in the post. So you can also do that if you have a shorter post, because LinkedIn does have a character limit on their posts. One other question about language. Why is it recommended to have only one profile in one language instead of two?
You can have profiles.
I
You
don't.
can have one profile, but in a number of languages. There is an option that you can have your profile in more than one language. So there is still one profile, but it's accessible to persons speaking different languages. Like I have Polish and English profile. It's one profile, but it's in two versions, so to speak, in two languages.
And so you had to translate all of your, let's say you had an experience block, you would have to take that block and translate it into the other language.
Yes. And of
to
course,
fit
I
the
can
mentality
also,
of that other language.
yes, exactly. I can adopt it. I can adopt it to my target audience. So if, for example, in Polish, I want to target coaches, let's say, or recruiting people, then I mention that in my Polish profile, but not in my English. It's perfectly okay. You have to really always think about your clients and what they are looking for.
And also, Valentina, just to remind you, LinkedIn only allows you to have one profile. So one page for you. You can have one page for your company, as I said earlier, but you can only have, as well as your personal page, but you can only have one page with you on it. And so therefore it has to be only one page. But as Sylwia was saying, you can translate it into various questions. And Anna Bogdanova says, I tried searching from interpreter profiles in Spanish as an intérprete, but it didn't find as many profiles as the search did in English. So that's an interesting thing as well, that probably a lot of people want to have their profile in English plus another language, but not necessarily, or just in English, but not necessarily just in another language. Do keep in mind, though, if you do have it in two languages, to translate everything, because if you don't, the person who's looking at it in the other language will look at it and suddenly your about section is in English, or your experience section is in English. And that's just frustrating for everybody. So we have another question, one that I did not come up with myself, which is nice. I mean, besides the ones that are following up on these things. And that is, I wonder if we can find our clients by only having a website and not by engaging in social networks. What do you think, Sylwia?
It's probably possible. I mean, we don't need social media to exist as professionals. There are other ways that we can do that. For example, networking or going to our clients' events, for example, or word of mouth. We don't need social media. It's just a nice addition, I think. And also another thing is while algorithm changes and the owners of the platforms changes and the rules change, we don't have control over that, but we always have control over what we have on our website. And this should be our base, really. for our clients to get to know us better and to validate ourselves with case studies or recommendations that we have on our website. All the other things are just an addition, and it's not. It's a place that we rent, so to speak. So let's use it to our fullest advantage, but let's remember that it might happen that we won't be there anymore. And what then? It's great to have the website in such a case.
Yes. I think that if you have a website and no social media presence, however, you must change your website all the time. You need to somehow post every week or add a photograph or do something to show that the website is not just falling away by the wayside and isn't doing anything. You know, it needs to constantly be refreshed so that Google keeps it in its lists for when people are looking for interpreters, for example. So that's a little bit difficult. Whereas if you're constantly active on social media and you connect that somehow to your website, then you can make sure that the website is constantly refreshed as well as the social media. And then you only have to do it once. So do keep in mind that if your website is just sitting there and you're not doing anything, you're not posting things, you're not, tweaking it and changing it all of the time, then it's not really going to be useful for you at all. It's kind of like having a profile on LinkedIn and never doing anything with it, you know, or becoming a member of an association and never going to their meetings, you know, which would be kind of silly. Excuse me. Okay, so our next question is how far we got to that. So how do you choose the formats that you use for your posts? Are they text only? Do you include photographs? Do you include video? I know you used to.
Yes.
And do you use the different formats for different reasons, or do you just kind of intermix them all as you see fit? What do you think?
Well, I must admit that I write posts most of the time at this moment. I also, time to time, I use other formats like video or polls. It's nice to have a mix because people react to different formats. They like different formats. Some people like writing and some people like visuals. So I think not to bore them with one type of format, I think it's a good idea to mix. And also, let's remember that the structure of the post. So it should be reader friendly. Let's remember that it should be like a conversation, which might be a little bit difficult because at school we've been taught that our writing should be well structured, well argued, you know, with complex sentences. And the whole philosophy of social media is quite the opposite. So it might be a little difficult, but I try to imagine that I have a conversation with a friend and I'm trying to relate to her and talk to her or him. And that we want to talk to people, not at people. So I also use emojis, short sentences, there are spaces between the paragraphs. So I keep reminding myself that even visually, the post should be more like a lace than a wall of bricks, because when I see a long post with huge paragraphs, I don't even read that. It's just tiresome, just by looking at it. I go over it and I move on. So I try to write posts that I would like to read myself.
Excellent. Really, really, really very comprehensive. So we have a question about what do you think about AI generated content for LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's a hot topic nowadays, but I think that for the authenticity sake, I think I would write myself. I would keep writing myself. I want I want this piece to be a conversation of me with the reader, with my clients or my colleagues. I really can't imagine using, machine. Just like machine translation isn't perfect, and it's okay, it's useful, it saves our time, and etc. It's not the same as a human translation. So I think that IE generated posts
Mhm.
are just not the same. It's not me there. It's the machine.
Yeah. I think you're right, and quite frankly, sending, like writing something or putting up something that a machine wrote is always going to be bland. It's not going to include any interesting idioms. It's not going to include any spark of personality. So I think that AI could be used very nicely to generate ideas, but I don't think that it would be something that you would generate an entire post and then just copy paste and put it up,
Yeah.
because there would be no you behind it. That would be very
Mhm.
difficult. Okay, we're running a little shorter on time. So I think I'm going to go with the next question, which I know is a little difficult, but what results, Sylwia, do you see from your posts? I mean, you've been posting now for at least since COVID, because that's when we were in the
Mhm.
class together and we were
Mhm.
posting
Mhm.
with break gaps and so on. But there must be a
Mhm.
reason why you're still posting. So you must see some kind of result. And what would that be?
Mhm. Yes, I do. Obviously, when I started, I didn't have a clue about LinkedIn and how to post and the content creation. It was just overwhelming. And when I look at those posts now, I smile because they are exactly the way that they shouldn't be, according, to they weren't very engaging, and I didn't have many clients back then. Right now, it's much better, and I enjoy it more, I must say. I engage with my colleagues, and I get to know my clients, and I try to uh, write posts and comment, and also exchange DMs. To build that relationship. So I think that the networking aspect is very important. Of course, we invest so much time and energy on LinkedIn to get something back, and I do get more inquiries now that my posts are more creative and created with more ease. So I think it reflects in my posts and also reflects in how my clients see me, and it's easier for them to approach me with a job.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah. And in fact, I've for me, the main thing isn't so much to get clients right out the bat.
Mhm.
I think, as you do, that it's much more about building relationships. And so I think that this is one more facet that I can build a relationship with my clients through, that they can look at what I'm writing, they can understand um, more about me, or in your case, with the pizza and so on. So you're married to somebody who really doesn't understand machine translation. You guys have to read the post. It's a really good one. I'll put the links to these 3 posts that I've been mentioning by Sylwia in the comments below the the video. Phew, the replay. Anyway, um, and I have spoken to other people who post a lot on Facebook and LinkedIn and social media and so on. And one of the questions I asked was, do you get clients who come to you directly from your social media? And the answer was no, but
Mhm.
they've all noticed that when they've been hired for a job, the client, before they've actually performed the work, the client will go on to LinkedIn to check out their profile to see what they do and who they are, and afterwards as well to like things and so on. So it's a brick in building that wall of, or actually not a wall, that bridge of communication and know, like, and trust,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah.
So I think those are the main results that you'll have. As Sylvia and I were discussing before we even came live, There's nothing concrete that you're going to see. You're not going to see, oh, I put out this post and now I have a new client. But what you will see is that the clients will be a little bit warmer towards you. They will be slightly easier to sell to, possibly even. So, okay. So, whoops, I'm going here. And now, before we get to our top tip, because we're coming to the end of our live stream, I just wanted to let you know that the next show and the last one before September will be July 1st at 4 p.m. And my special guest at that time, and let me just show you this before, and here we go, will be Frederick Kermish, who is a business coach for private bankers and used to be an interpreter, funnily enough. In fact, that's how we met. And he's going to talk about sales and persuasion skills, but persuasion didn't fit on the slide so well. Sales and persuasion skills for interpreting. So I hope to see you next month on that particular live stream as well. Along with that, I'd like to let you know about a couple of opportunities for continuing professional development. The Cambridge Conference Interpretation course still has one spot open, and I'll put the link in the comments below. So if you have English, French, or Spanish is full, but you can always send in an application, Italian, German, or Russian, and you've been dying to come, this is it. We have one spot left. And the other thing I wanted to announce is that on July 8th and 9th, Know Your Worth, woohoo, I will be running a Know Your Worth online seminar, the first one in over a year, Saturday and Sunday, July 8th and 9th. So if you're interested in that, please take a look at the link that I'm going to be putting below in the comments below this entire thing. So today's top tip, Sylwia, is?
Don't judge yourself too harshly. And this is something I strongly believe in. We talked about how to write posts and where to get ideas, but I'd like to stress that our mindset is the second pillar that makes us successful on LinkedIn or anywhere else for that matter. And as linguists, we are masters of words. We make words work for our clients' benefit, but at the same time, it's often hard for us to make words work for us. We often feel constricted. We put too much pressure on ourselves. We criticize ourselves. We think about how others will perceive us. And I think altogether, it's a lot to carry on. And you probably heard the term inner critic, and this is something that I definitely struggled with. But then I flipped it around and saw it not as much as a critic, but as an inner protector. And these thoughts are there to protect us against perceived danger, like being on social media, except that danger isn't real, of course. And let me share a little story to better illustrate that concept. So my daughter bought herself a puppy, a lovely Doberman. He's, loving, intelligent, great fun, but he's also very protective. And my daughter lives in a block of flats, and when there's somebody walking down the corridor to get to their apartment, the dog will bark very loudly, also in the middle of the night. Imagine that. So he doesn't really know how to differentiate real danger and perceived danger. He just barks, and that's all that he knows, how to react. And I think that our inner critic is a little bit like that. He sees the danger in anything that's off its grid. So being on social media is going out of the comfort zone. And that's why the inner critic is signaling that, it's dangerous. So we have to show it slowly that it's okay, that we are on social media, that we are safe, that we in fact enjoy it. And we can even, when we hear that thought in our head, don't do that, or, it's all been said before, we can talk back. So we can say, it's okay, go take a nap, I'm safe, I'm talking to my friends, to my dear clients. And I think that after a while, when you get used to being on social media, it will learn to accept that situation. It will notice it's safe, it's enjoyable for you, and it will see it as a non-danger situation.
Mhm.
So I would say just, take the action, keep publishing, lovingly talk to yourself, and you will be safe and you will enjoy the process for sure.
Excellent, and a fantastic tip. In fact, Sylwia, it's a really, really good tip. And it was, as Zilin says, that was a great analogy, and it helped people to understand that very much. So well done. And thank everybody for having come. So that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for putting your questions in the comments and for commenting and engaging. Now you all know what engagement is. And later on, when you go back to look at this replay, you'll see your comments are all there and there's engagement. So you've all started your engagement path. And I'll see you next month with Frederick Kermish and sales and persuasion skills for interpreters. Thanks again.